Casey.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Marquee Show podcast. With us tonight is our returning, even though he's never technically been there, presenter Michael Saulpaugh, that was scheduled to be with us 2 years ago, but travel conditions made it impossible. From beautiful, is it northern New Jersey or southern New York?
Yeah, it's the same thing, really.
Gotcha.
Northern New Jersey. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Gotcha. Excited to have you. Excited to spend some time. We gotta carve out time for a breakfast or a dinner while you're in town. I know you're in there real briefly, but I definitely I've enjoyed our talks on the phone. I definitely want to spend some quality time with you. And then the new up and coming with a justifiable reason for CRM software is my man Brian McGann, who's also an active working DJ, also from New York, just further north than you. Have you guys ever met before? I think I saw both of you at the same
Yes,
DJ
I
Collective
know
years
Brian.
ago.
Brian and
Very
I have had
good.
some good chats. Brian's a good dude. Hey, Brian, good to see you again.
Excellent.
Yeah, man.
And John chose not to even introduce us today, but John's back of house there, making sure that people can hear us. So thanks for putting this together once again, John, like you do every Wednesday night. So let's start the things off. I'm going to do some quick housekeeping. We're super excited. We got I don't know if you saw, but we added our last presenter for the show. So we're fully programmed, which I'm super excited about. And it is, oh my God, my brain just shut off. Jacksonville, Florida, think tanker, Mex Hall of Fame inductee, David Hanscom. David Hanscom's going to be talking about, and it's kind of an interesting topic that both of you will like, about turning your one-time client, because that's a lot of times what we have, into a lifetime client. And so it'll be a great thing. And he's speaking on day 3. So he just officially wrapped up all of the holes in our scheduling. So our schedule is live, and I think we've got like 99% of the topics and the descriptions for each one. So if you're watching this, you definitely want to check that out. And so there's that. All of our parties are programmed for Marquee as well. Vendors are jumping on board. We want to say thank you to Ultimate Ears for coming back again. Tony sent in his paperwork today. And Michael, do you use an in-ear monitor for your playing?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. So then you're familiar, perhaps, maybe not with Ultimate Ears, but with some of the competitors. But he's going to actually be scanning at the show, so you can get your ear scanned. Then they custom mold it to your to actual eardrum so that it fits perfectly. Brian, are you a headphone guy, an in-ear guy, a non-headphone guy?
I've been back and forth about trying them out. My booth has been next to a couple of theirs at some shows, but I'm kind of old school. I like the cup over my ear, so I kind of,
Yeah, I got mine not this past year, the year before, actually. So, and the weirdest part for me is because they're so light, I find myself walking away from the booth. And it was one thing when you've got the stretchy foam cord, and you can remember you got the cans around your neck or whatever. But when you've got the in-ears, and it's like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. So, yeah, I even thought about doing like a Sennheiser pack so that it's wireless, and then just plugging it, reverse it into the headphone jack so that I could be totally free. So, but who knows? I still don't look nearly as cool as Tim McGraw does when he's rocking out with them. So let's start out with Michael. So for those of you that don't know Michael, I'm going to let Michael tell the story because I had the pleasure of meeting Michael, I think 2, maybe 3 years ago in Nashville at DJ Collective. And I said it to you before. I'm saying it publicly. You were my favorite presentation, my favorite presenter. I'm a marketing nerd, so you were throwing marketing porn at me the entire time. It was like giving out marketing lap dances, and I was all about it. So if you've never heard of Michael, he's somebody you definitely have to have on the radar, guys. And I'll let Michael kind of give you his background because I think it's super impressive as well. So, Michael, the floor is yours, brother.
Thank you. Thank you for having that. I should also give the caveat that I hate speaking about myself. But We are a small but mighty band of troops here in northern New Jersey, based in Montclair, from Elegant Music Group. I have two partners, and we have just recently opened up our Chicago office, which Casey, you and I were chatting about,
Yeah.
bringing on a fourth partner there, and I could tell you a little bit more about that in a bit. But basically, Elegant Music Group was a legacy company that we all worked at. I'm not a DJ, though I did have a very shoddy one-man solo op from the age of 12 until I got out of college, and I was not any good, but I made a lot of money doing it and kind of put myself through school. But I am a musician. My two partners, one is a musician, one is a DJ, and we worked at this company. And it started as a live music agency, brought on in-house DJs. We all work there. The previous owner was getting a little bit long in the tooth. We were sort of the young, angry guys that were running the day-to-day, and we approached him and asked to buy the business. That was in 2019. Since doing that, we have grown exponentially, so much so that last year we landed on the Forbes, not the Forbes, excuse me. It's late here on the East Coast. The
Yeah.
Inc. 5000 list at number 900 as the fastest growing events and entertainment company in the country. We're really proud of that.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And that's been a labor of love, and everybody has had a specific part of that, from our ops team down to our sales team. And but my specific purview in that was the marketing, and that was really the engine that started it all, because it had to, right? You can't, expand your sales and your ops without the marketing. And we largely did that through breaking a lot of the old dependencies and habits of the current business, or the business that we bought, which was current at the time, on those more traditional word of mouth venue relations, planners, that sort of stuff. And we wanted to break our dependency on those things. We didn't want them to go away, but we wanted to break our dependency and just have them more as a part of the mix and really go direct to the consumer. And the way that we did that was through digital marketing. And so we went, I could give you statistics and stuff. I don't want to bore you, but that is essentially in a nutshell who Elegant Music Group is. My partners and I, other than that one show that you actually saw us at, we largely fly under the radar. We have industry colleagues that we're friendly with, but we don't really attend a lot of these shows. I did, on your gracious invitation, virtually speak at Marquee, but that's really it. I'm not on the circuit, and we don't, we like to fly under the radar.
Sure.
But we are obviously clearly a very large company. We do have live music as well, so we have bands, and we have 22 DJs that work for us. And we specialize in hybrid entertainment, obviously, just given the composition of how we're put together. And last year we did slightly over 1,500 events, and we were in 15 different states. And we're just really proud of our team and the sort of the company that we've built. So I hope that kind of gives you a quick overview in a short
Yeah,
period
no,
of time
it's
there.
great. I know you shared it at DJ Collective, but would you be willing to talk again briefly about where the company was at as far as gross dollars then to where I know you announced it
Yeah,
at the
sure.
because
So
that obviously I'm a DJ like everyone else. It was just you have a lot to be proud of. I mean, it really is an amazing accomplishment.
Sure. Yeah. So the year before we bought it, which was 2018, because we bought it in April of 2019. So 2019 is a bit skewed because some of it the first quarter we didn't own it, and then we did the rest of the year. But in 2018, the gross revenue of the business was 1.1 million. So it by no means was a small company, right, in terms of the DJ atmosphere, but for where we were in the country, we were this, small little entertainment company. We weren't even top dog in our state, let alone sort of the country. This year, we are on pace to hit about 8.2. So, and that's to go from basically 2019 to now. So you're talking about a 6 or 6.5 year growth trajectory. Our first year fully 2019, if I'll count Q1, whatever, we did 1.8. In 2020, we actually grew through the pandemic, and the growth that we did during COVID was pivotal to our exponential, like quick growth, and I'll explain that. But we did 2.2 in 20. By the time weddings started happening in 2021, we had hit 4.2. So we went from 2.2 to 4.2 in 1 year, then 5.2, then 6.6, and last year 7.2, and now this year 8. So it's been sort of very quick, and we've done it was a lot of growing pains, a lot of learning on the fly. By no means are we perfect or the experts, but we've got sort of a good foundation built now through the fire, and that's what we've been able to accomplish and do largely thanks to digital marketing. So,
Right. And that's
yeah.
what you're going to be talking about at Marquee
Yes.
is the different platforms you advertise in and the pain points, so what people should know going into it, and what you've learned and what you're willing to share with everybody to so they don't go through the same pain points and the same problems that you did.
Yeah.
So and I can tell you guys, to me, you were worth the price of admission for DJ Collective, and we're a fraction of the price of DJ Collective. So that was that. So on that subject, let's do a cliff notes of maybe a few quick tips that people should know about when it comes to paid social media or paid Google ads.
Well, in years past, both at the time you saw me at DJ Collective and then also when I did the virtual chat, I talked a lot about how to build a marketing team. And I think one of the biggest points that I want to convey is it is not easy to do this, and you do need a specialist. The same way that, you have somebody that runs your CRM, or you have an accountant, you have a lawyer, you will need a specialist. And it is a futile and silly gesture for me to try to get up and explain how to actually pull the levers within Google or within TikTok, how to optimize a campaign, how to add negative keywords, how to build top of funnel, mid funnel, because in all likelihood, a lot of people will never have that technical know-how. And so the thing that I think I'm going to focus my chat on this year, my presentation, which I'm still working on, is really more so let's not get super technical and let's talk about some high level understanding about how to build a healthy ecosystem digitally, and then how to get your house in order to squeeze return on investment. So just as a quick aside, I am one of the owners of Elegant Music Group. I also own a marketing company. And so I straddle both of those worlds. And so I'm sort of uniquely qualified to market it within our industry, right? And so the number one reason why we lose marketing clients, not just in the DJ world, but just in general, is because we cannot control what happens beyond the click. If you
Right.
hire me as your marketing professional, and my job, Brian says, I want more leads for my CRM. Even if we prove that out and I meet with him weekly or monthly and I say, look, you spent X, we drove, 20 leads and your cost per lead was $50 or whatever it was, and all of our numbers look great, but he's not seeing it on his bottom line. What's the first thing that gets cut? It's like, oh, the marketing is
Right.
not working.
Right.
And that has been my experience with marketing clients outside of our industry, but especially within our industry. In fact, I worked with a gentleman that I met through Marquee last go around, and that was a bit of a unique story. I've never seen a market. He was based in Detroit. I've never seen a digital landscape like Detroit. It is so
Okay.
atypical to New York, New Jersey, Chicago, Florida, California. So, however, my big takeaway here is going to be, all right, here is what digital marketing can do. Here is the high level way that you build a team and what you need to understand in order to run that team for your business. But most importantly, don't start unless you have your house in order. Meaning, if my CPA, I looked today, we had a very good month on Google. My cost per lead was $90. All right. Now, if I were selling a $3 widget, that would be a terrible number. But when our average
Right.
contract is 6,600, you'll pay $90 all day, right?
Right.
However, when we take on a lead, we are looking for volume because very few of those people after the click will actually take action, right? And so we have to reduce friction. We have to make it very simple for them to take the next action, which for us is to book a consultation, right? And we do that by In email number one, here's a link to our calendar. You book the time, right? It's not like, when can you meet? How about Tuesday? It's frictionless. If
Right.
they don't respond to email one, they get hit with email two and then email three. And if they go all the way through the sequence and they do nothing, then they go into a cold drip sequence. And this is stuff that Brian's wonderful CRM does, right? But if people don't have that, don't start spending on Google yet, because
Right.
what's going to happen is somebody's going to reach out. You're going to go, oh, I got a Google lead. You're going to send them one email. They're either, never going to respond because they forgot or they don't want to or whatever. And now you've paid $90 for nothing, basically. And so, yes, some of my conversation and my talk this year will be technical, but we're also going to talk about the ways to squeeze out the ROI once they're within your ecosystem.
Right. Well, I can tell you from being a wedding show producer and a DJ, one of the reasons I started producing wedding shows is 'cause I believed in them so strongly. But to me, and it sounds pretty similar to this, the click, or in our case, the getting the bride to fill out the little form,
Mhm.
that's the start, not the end of the race. And
Right.
that's where I think a lot of wedding professionals seem to they misunderstand that. That's like joining the health club. You've made the action and you're there. Now you have to actually do the work. And to me, and Alan Berg says this, they've already told you, like, we're interested in at least the type of service you offer because they gave you their information, which is better than a lot of the people that don't collect information at a show or aren't asking the right questions on an inquiry form or what have you. And so you're 100% on the money there. So for us, the what we have our hot leads and we have our general leads where if they filled out a form in our booth and we can see they've got a venue and they've got a date and they've given us the right information, then we know they're legitimately interested. It's a priority to start looking for entertainment. If they didn't want it or whatever, we get the names from the show, then those leads wind up getting broadcast emails and they go through MailChimp. And when they're ready, we're happy to help them and serve
Yep.
them and kind of go from there. But it's about staying on top of it. As a show producer, I can tell you 85% of the vendors that get the list never ever use them. And I don't get it because you paid all of that money to be there. And I don't know if it's just some of the old school people or the old school mentality that you hand them your card and they're going to do it. But as we know, with Americans having an attention span of a goldfish,
Sure.
that's it. It's here today, gone tomorrow.
Well, and it's so funny. So, like, if you attend a bridal show as a vendor and they give you a list of, the 100 attendees or something, there
Right,
is the way that you can leverage it where you do direct reach out, right? Or you put those people in your MailChimp or whatever. But from a
right,
digital perspective, there are some more technical things that you can do, like take that list, feed it to Google or TikTok, and create what's called a lookalike audience, right? And so a
right,
lookalike audience is going to take those emails, and it's all sort of encrypted. They're not going to
sure,
reach out to those people, but they're going to say, oh, what's use AI and the algorithm to say, what is the commonality between these random 100 people? And
hmm,
it might be a geographic target, it might be socioeconomic, it might be their, that they all oddly have an affinity for skincare, which I've learned that a lot of, which makes sense, right? Like a lot of
right.
brides, like our key demo, they like skincare stuff. So I run ads on skincare,
That's
channels.
why
But
Brian and I get stuff for shaving heads. It's all
uh,
about razors.
go
Nice.
So,
figure, right? So
uh-huh.
somebody has built, a lookalike audience. But essentially, you harness the power of a list that, yes, maybe you are reaching out to, but you're also saying, hey, Google, go get me more people like this. And it's
Right.
those little tidbits that anyone can understand, right? It's working with the actual paid analyst now to say, hey, analyst, that's the person sitting in the closet doing all the stuff for you on Google. You have to know how to talk that talk. And I think that's what my chat is going to be focused on. And then I'll have my partner, Brian, who now is in Chicago. He'll be at the
Right.
show. I may
Awesome.
reluctantly pull him on up to say, all right, Brian, we've gotten these leads. Now, what do you do with it on the ground game? So case in point, it's good business practice, right? It's just 101, simple, hit the pavement. We get a lead for the University Club in Chicago. Never set foot in that venue before, ever. We
Right.
meet with the client, right? We sell the job. Who are you working with, client? They say, I'm working with Kevin at the venue. We then pick up the phone. Hey, Kevin, we're Elegant Music Group. We've just booked a job. Can we come in and visit you? You go to the venue, you do that. You shake a hand. Do you have a preferred list? I'd love to be here. So it's all stuff that people already do, but it's compounding the effect and sort of shortening the time horizon to growth by cutting the line with digital marketing.
But I'll tell you what you said about going to visit. I can tell you a lot of wedding vendors don't do that.
You want to know how I know that, Casey?
Hmm.
Because see here, right? That's you have to do that. Like you have to bow at the foot of a venue
Sure.
for many years on the East Coast and maybe put
Right.
hush money in an envelope and meet somebody in a parking lot. And Brian's laughing, so he knows this,
Right.
right? Before you ever get on their list. And when we came to Chicago, we would literally, sometimes we'd set up appointments. Other times, legitimately, we would just be by a venue. And I'd be like, oh, look,
Yeah.
here's a wedding venue. And I'd walk in. This happened in October. I'd walk in and I'd go, hey, I hate to, I don't, if this is not a good time, no problem. But is there anyone on your sales team I can chat with? Oh, I can chat with you right now. And simply because swear to God, I think we looked people in the eye and had a jacket on and shook their hand. Elegant Music Group is preferred at over 10 venues in Chicago right now. We haven't even played our first event there yet. And
Right.
so, but we would have never been able to even have some of those opportunities without the digital piece. So,
No, I get it. But again, the sad part about a lot of the wedding vendors are they just don't do the work. People will credit me for one thing. I go to work every day, every single solitary day. People joke that how do I do it? I just go to work. That's it. I mean, I hate to say it, but the reason some people are in shape and others aren't, they go to the health club. They eat right, and I'm not saying I'm the best DJ in the world or the best businessman in the world, but I go to work every single day. And on the same subject of that, we're going to have a seminar at Marquee with catering directors talking about what do they like about wedding vendors or vendors in general, and what don't they like? And that's it. Super easy breezy. I was listening to Big Daddy had on his show a couple weeks ago, our friend Shannon Tarrant, who owns Wedding Venue Map. She gave the simplest idea that's right in front of us all the time, very similar to what you just did at University Club, which is the minute that she loved it when a vendor would say, "Hey, I just booked John and Jane Doe's wedding on June 5th. Here's our COI. It's a generic one. If you need an additionally insured, that's that. We just want to get this to you because we know how crazy things are. We'd rather do it now, 6 months in advance or whatever it is, so that you're not scrambling to ask your wedding couples to get them from their vendors. This is our traditional way. We come in through the doors that you ask us to. Uh, we're dressed accordingly. We don't consume any alcohol. They essentially get an email reminding the venue of how professional they are. She goes, when we get that, we automatically they're at the top of our list mentally, and then after they do a great job, we're always open because that's the type of thing that we're looking for from a partner at a thing, and and that's that. So it's just amazing. So we're going to have actual catering executives from all over the Chicagoland area talking about what they like and don't like about wedding vendors. You know,
if there is any sort of pre-show poll that I would love to have like a data point on, and I don't know if you
sure.
could do this through the Facebook group or through
Oh
your
yeah,
email list or whatever, is what do attendees want out of this? Because I assume people know digital marketing is good and I should do it. They probably also don't understand it. But again, I've already said I'm not going to go super technical because that seems to be not a good approach, right?
right,
So what can I do that would really drive value to people? Because what I don't want to do is I don't want to speak over people's heads technically. I really want them to
right.
get something out of this. And I think that sometimes that is the frustrating part because I've had this experience where I speak at very few areas or places or whatever. People leave all charged and fired up, especially when I say, hey, this is what EMG does gross and annual and so on and so forth. And then it's them taking the next action that seems to have sort of fall off, And so I would love to figure out, hey, what do you want to hear in this specifically?
Well, here we've got a couple people in our that are watching this on our Facebook page. And Robert Nipkin, I know he joined on, so I'll let Robert answer the question. And I know that our good friend Jeffrey Powell from Two DJs, One Mic, in fact, he said, love to have a conversation tomorrow on marketing, Michael, and he gave you his email address. Izzy's on board, Simeon's on board, so I'll let them start to ask. One of the questions Rob had right away is it too forward to ask a venue manager right off the bat during a site survey to be on the preferred vendor list?
In my opinion, no. I thought if you would have asked me that question 6 months ago, I would have said yes. But what we have found is I have no patience and I like getting right to
Okay,
the point and I say what I
sure.
mean. And we would reach out and we'd say, hi, I'm like Brian, my partner had this experience many times. He'd reach out, he'd say, hey, I'm from Elegant Music Group. We'd like to come and visit. And, here's all of our marketing materials. And if you are I mean, you don't have to be a rocket scientist if you're on the receiving end of that email, you have to understand why a vendor would want to come in, especially if they're presenting all of this information in an email. And on more than one occasion, we would get there and like one place arranged for us to have a tour with literally like a night janitor. So we thought we were
Mhm.
meeting with the sales team and a janitor was there. Another time we met with an operations manager who was lovely and they introduced us to people on the tour. And so we got to the end and it was like time to kind of talk turkey about, hey, can we join the list? And they said, oh, we don't do the sales. Remember those two people that we met, 15 minutes ago? Those were the banquet managers or salespeople. So I believe in say what you mean. So now we've started to say, hey, we'd like to speak with you about joining your list. Is there an opportunity for us to do that? If you don't ask, you don't get. And we've had
Agreed.
a better success rate with at least setting up the conversations with the right people. Now, some of them have said, yeah, you can join. Most of them have said, we love what we hear, but we still want you to do one event with us to see what your work is like. And then some said no, but at least we were in the right people. So that's a very long way of saying no, ask the question up front.
Gotcha.
Agreed.
Lori just posted, I'd love to learn more about venue relationships. He put his email. Lori, I got an idea. Buy a pass for Marquee and you can see it all there, my friend. Cha-ching. Cha-ching. And don't worry, Rob. He said, hey, Brian, hope to hear your voice within the next 20 minutes. Laugh out loud. So we're gonna get to Brian. There's no question about
I'm
it.
just agreeing with everything with Mike says right now. Like he's 100% right on all of it. Like,
Preaching to the choir. And again, the sad part is, unless you're, to me, what's funny is too many wedding vendors give the stack of business cards the Saturday that they happen to be there when it's total chaos. And that's the wrong time to talk to a catering person. It's the right time to collect a card. It's the wrong time to try to start pitching your company because their number one responsibility, which should be your number one responsibility, should be taking care of the client that night. So that's that. And with that, let's continue with questions that everybody's got. And let's see. So far, I don't have anything more, but let's switch over to Brian for a second. So, for those of you guys that don't know Brian, Brian is an active working DJ. Are you in upstate New York? Did I get that right?
yep. I was born in New York City, but now live up in the Hudson Valley. So
Gotcha. Very good.
Brian, what town are
And
you in again?
what's that?
What town are you in again?
I live in Walk Hill, but no one ever knows where Walk Hill is. So they know where Newburgh is. So,
I grew up in the Hudson Valley, so I know
okay.
very well where Walk Hill is.
Yeah. So we've definitely crossed paths on venues too. I think we've actually done some events together.
Oh, funny.
Yeah,
Nice.
with photo booths from your company and things like that. So I know a couple of your guys.
very good. And in addition to being a working active DJ, he went ahead and decided to build the better mousetrap. So he wound up creating Simple, which is going to be joining us at Marquee. And he's also doing like a 20-minute TED Talk on CRMs, showcasing his one. And you're on Wednesday morning or Thursday
Okay.
morning? Wednesday morning, gotcha. And then Vibo's on Thursday morning. So you're gonna have to get up a little bit early because I think you go on at 9 or 9:30, something like that.
9:20, I think, or 9:30.
Yeah. So there's that, but he'll also be around the whole time and he'll have a booth at the show. So if you're looking for a CRM or you're frustrated with the CRM that you are working with, He'll be there to answer questions, address concerns, and offer some solutions. So, with that, I'm going to turn things over to you and go ahead and introduce yourself and chat.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, Brian McGann is the real name. The DJ name slash radio name is Brian Styles. Owns Styles Entertainment. Actually, just celebrated my 15th year of Styles Entertainment 2 days ago. Been DJing
Congrats.
been DJing for 30 years. Started when I was 14 years old. Me and a buddy of mine being 14, just buying equipment, and it was like the perfect timing because all of our friends were turning 16, so we started doing sweet 16s and school dances, and but then
I think I've done one Sweet 16 in the 35 years I've been in business.
that
They're
was
just not a big deal in Chicago.
that was my bread and butter when I was younger, and
Me
I
too.
wanted nothing to do with weddings. But then I actually got picked up by a local company about 2 years into me having my own little company, if you want to call it a 14,
Right.
whatever you want to call that. But I was doing a party one day, and the owner of that company was in the next room and saw a young kid rocking a party by himself and asked who I was. And I had a friend that worked for the company at the time, and I got into working for a professional company, and it kind of taught me the ropes of that. And then college, went off to college, and I kind of took a back burner because I always wanted a career in radio. And then after college, did my radio thing for a while, but I always missed DJing. So 15 years ago, started my own company and never looked back. And that was for the DJing part,
Very good.
which led into Simple and all that stuff.
So let's talk about Simple then.
Yeah. So Simple kind of came about because, when I was looking to start my own company, I was pen and paper, with a little flip phone on my nightstand. And yes, there were things out there. There were programs out, not too many at the time. There's way more out there now. But just nothing that really like caught my eye and did everything I wanted to do under one umbrella. So I was working at a job, met a gentleman that I worked at a job with. He was a programmer, and we just kind of connected. And I said, "Hey, I have an idea. I'm starting my own company. I want to build something for myself." So I pretty much built it for me, with hopefully the dream of one day of like throwing it out there and seeing if anyone was interested in it. And then I was just got so busy with DJing, I just never looked back. And then COVID kind of gave us a reset, and that gave me the opportunity to launch it.
Gotcha. Very good. And without mentioning others' names, what are some of the unique attributes that you have that not every other CRM has? I mean, a lot of them have, assignability and you can put in payroll as to like what you're
Yeah.
paying your DJs. But what would you say are some of the tools that are unique to you that you either feel are better, again, without mentioning other names, because it's not a
No,
pissing contest, but
you'll
things
never
that you think are unique?
Yeah, you'll never hear me talk bad about
Yeah.
any other company. It's the number one question I always get. What's the difference between you and so or you and everyone else? And it's such a hard question to just, hit on the head of the nail and talk about, because there's a lot of things, and whether we both do certain things and we just do things differently, or there's things we do that other systems just don't do in general. That's why I love to show this system, because sometimes like in action, when you see it in action, it makes more sense. But the big thing for us is the integrations that we're doing. As business owners, that, I heard Mike before mention when you get that lead from, the wedding show, use MailChimp. Well, guess what? MailChimp is another X amount of money per month. It's another login. Like we have our own marketing tool built in where you don't need an external marketing system. So that's already built into our
So
system.
you can do broadcast email marketing?
You can do mass email marketing, and then also what Mike was talking about, which what we call in our system is a drip campaign. So the follow-ups,
Right.
get that lead, you get email one, 3 days later you get email two. We do all that. You were talking about the COI before. That's actually something I started this year, where part of my drip campaign is the minute an event is booked, 2 days later, an email goes to the venue introducing myself with a copy of my COI already on it. So they have it 2 days after my event is booked at that venue. Now, if they want to be put on as a second insured, yes, I have to redo that and send it to them, but at least they have an original copy right away.
Right.
And that's
And
just one of,
is that just hosted on your website then with a link, or do you actually send it as an attachment?
I send it as a document.
Okay. Gotcha.
It's a document it's a PDF document of my
Okay.
COI. I already have it pre-set up in a drip campaign that says 1 day after or 2 days after event gets booked, email the contact of the venue that they put down as their venue. And obviously I have to have the contact information in my system.
Sure.
I allow the client to give that to me within that 2 days.
Gotcha.
So automation is key.
Oh, yeah.
I will be very, very honest. like I said, 15-year anniversary 2 years ago or 2 days ago, and it wasn't until about a year and a half ago where I personally started using automation.
And on that subject, bling bling, another cheap plug for Marquee is we've got the king of automation. We've got Eric Massengale
Yep.
coming to the show. Now, here's what's interesting about this conversation alone. Now, in all seriousness, the number one thing when I listen to DJs, I've done all kinds of seminars, and we've had great seminars by Mike Walter talking about emceeing, and we've had DJ Kubert teaching scratching, and we had Frank Garcia teaching mixing, and we've had Kova teaching editing. By and large, the thing that I found though is most DJs all think that they're great DJs, and some of them are, and some of them are average, and some of them aren't. And I'm not here to argue who wins the Oscar and who gets the Razzie. But the one thing that is consistent is everybody wants more business. They're an aggressive business owner and they want to grow their business. They want to raise their prices, whatever. And so part of that is definitely falling back on the business side of the business. So this year we made a conscious effort to really focus on the business side of the business. Okay.
Yep.
It's about sales. It's about marketing. It's about networking. We even have a seminar on, it's called Success by Association. And we have people coming in from WIPA, from NACE, from ILEA, from MPI. And they're not only going to talk about what those organizations are, but they're going to give tips on how to properly network at these functions. So as a result of that, you're going to hear it from the horse's mouth. And I saw Darrell Jones actually had done a like or a hello on here. And I know you guys both know Darrell, don't you? He was at
Darrell's my
DJC.
boy. I love Darrell.
He's a great guy. And I'll tell you, I met him before I met him. And what I mean by that is we have our catering business. I was doing a hot dog cart catering job at a venue, and he was the DJ. And I got to tell you, I'm not normally overly impressed with DJs, but he was just killing it. And he is a DJ's DJ. He was getting in and out at the right places. He was reading the room. I found myself working this event having a really great time because of it. I went up and got his card at the end, and then maybe 4 months later, I met him officially at DJ Collective, and I even said to him, I go, like, "Do you remember me?" He goes, "You have a hot dog card too, don't you?" I go, "It's one of the businesses I own." And he's like, "I do remember." And great DJ, and so I reached out to him because I know he's part of the Chicago WIPA chapter and said, I'd love it if you specifically spoke being a DJ, and a large concentration of our guests will be DJs or attendees. So again, it's really, this year is about the business side of the business. I want to help DJs get more business. That's what it's all about.
That's funny that you say that because since Simple launched 2 years ago,
Yeah.
again, this is not a path I ever saw my life taking. I thought I was going to be a DJ until they told me I had to stop, right? That's where all
Right.
DJs. I didn't realize how much I actually enjoy the business side of things and
Oh, sure.
and talking about it. And when I say teaching, like I'm no teacher. I don't, like we said before, we don't know everything, but I would love to share my knowledge, whether older generation, younger generation, but I'm still learning things from people too as I'm helping people with setting up their CRM systems. I'm watching how they run their business, and there's things that I've picked up on that I'll start using.
Sure.
So it's, I feel like the DJ community, and Mike, you can chime in here and tell me if you feel the same way. In the last 10 years, I say it's shifted. You go back 10 years ago, it was, you don't get to know where I got that remix. I'm not telling you where I do my marketing. That's me. Go figure it out yourself. That's just not the case anymore. I feel like
I
this.
think that's a product of social media because I can speak from having gone to DJ shows for years. I always appreciated the guys that got up on stage and shared. And I know that my goal a long time ago was to be worthy enough that somebody wanted my knowledge, and I wanted to be smart enough to be able to share. And I was granted that opportunity, and I absolutely love sharing and have been doing it ever since. And loved writing for Disc Jockey News. I love teaching, and this year is the first year. I think this is the first year I've ever spoken at Marquee, to be honest with you. because I never wanted it to be about me. And I'm speaking the very last seminar of it, and it's really about growing your business vertically and horizontally. And I think we're all doing that to a degree, but I think people can be doing it a lot more than they realize. So people are getting ordained to be ministers. People are selling up lighting, and when I started in the late 80s, it was show up and DJ. And
Yeah.
and that was it. And now there's far more to it.
Well, a lot
So,
of what I see a big shift happening, especially from where I sit now with the CRM and the business side of things, is the production. A lot of DJs are going into the production and AV work. They're still DJing, don't get me wrong, but like you said, weddings are slowing down. Private AV and corporate, like they need that no matter what, whether they need a DJ or not. They still need monitors, microphones, TV.
mhm.
I see a lot of people going into that world too.
Yep. So no question about it.
So
Um,
if I can tie these two
yeah, of
worlds
course.
together, I just want to jump off of something. Brian, when you say weddings are going down, that hasn't been my experience.
No, mine neither. I'm just
Yeah.
going with what KC said.
The fact is the statistics show
Oh,
marriage licenses nationally are dwindling.
got it,
I
got it.
don't.
And
Yeah.
you may have jumped in prior to COVID, we were at the lowest marriage rate in this country that we have been in since World War II. I mean, those are the cold hard statistics. And it is my belief, it's for a couple of reasons. One, products of divorce, children are products of divorce, and you are where you come from. And so if marriage wasn't a big deal to your parents growing up, it's probably not a big deal to you. Two is organized religion has changed as well. People don't go to church, and marriage is a sacrament of the church and the synagogue and the mosque and things like that. So if you're not attending church, that's not important to you. People's views on people having kids out of wedlock is very different than it was even with me being a child of the 80s or a teenager of the 80s. And then the last part of it is people are financing their own college. So when you have that on call it the moralistic side, and now you're graduating college with all this college debt, and your father has not made a college fund for you. He certainly has not given you a wedding fund either. So now you're going to finance this. What's the point?
Let me ask you this though, Casey. Do you think that's more regional and based on location?
No,
Because like
no.
where
I
Mike,
think it's a national
Jersey,
thing,
like I'm in Jersey quite often, not as much as Mike lives in Jersey.
right?
But I know for like Jersey weddings are not going down. Like people are getting married in Jersey.
No, but you say that without necessarily looking at the marriage licenses that would have been from years ago. And again, the other challenge in general compared to years ago is there are far more venues now. So it used to be my Fridays and Sundays were a lot busier because people didn't have as many choices. Now, between barns and raw space venues and restaurants that will let you do buyouts and such, it's just a different landscape. It's not
Well,
every single venue is no longer a crown molding chandelier and marble dance floor like it was in the 80s and 90s.
yeah, I mean, New Jersey has the highest density rate. So even, I believe you, Casey, marriage license
Yeah,
are probably down here as well, but we probably feel it, Brian, a lot less than where
Yeah.
population centers are more sparse. But what I would say is that almost universally, every vendor that I spoke with last year in our area, and outside of entertainment, right? Photographers, videographers, venues, all, and this was locally, but also nationally too. I was hearing businesses down, it's down, it's a down year, the COVID boom is over, it's down, it's
right,
down, it's down, it's down, it's down. We grew 9% last year. Now, 9% growth for us is a down year
right,
so far, right? However, I attribute that growth, right? We grew in a not just a down market, in a down industry. And the reason why I believe we did is because we have a very healthy and very robust marketing apparatus. So without fail, when I would talk to my colleagues and they would say, "Yeah, it's a down year, down year, down year," I'd say, "Tell me what you do for marketing. What are you doing?" And
right,
almost no one was in the digital landscape.
right.
They were either doing everything that they had always done,
Sure.
right? Proving that some of those dinosaur or those legacy actions were not working, or they at least weren't supplementing, right? And so to me, that is the mind-bogglingly frustrating part is when I hear people saying, I want to grow, I want to grow, I want to grow, but they're not doing the thing that I know supercharges businesses. It is a very frustrating thing. And I believe the second time that I spoke, right, I spoke at DJC and then I spoke privately with like Matt Radicelli's groups and,
Sure.
and by the time I got to Marquee, I think I started by saying, I'm angry now. Now I'm ornery, right? Now I'm aggravated because I'm going to fire you guys up and then nobody's going to take any action. I almost did it as like a challenge, right? I just don't understand it. I really don't understand why people don't take the leap when I know that it pays off dividends. It's hard in the beginning, and I can speak from experience, but I do know that
Sure.
it pays off.
Well, but that goes back to the rule of success. Okay. Successful people are the ones that are willing to do the things that unsuccessful people aren't. What are the two hardest parts of exercise? Okay. If you're going to do 10 sit ups, what are the two hardest?
Getting on the floor
First
first.
and the last.
The first one and the 11th.
Mhm.
Okay. And that's that. The first one that's why the Nike ad, just do it, is simplistic. It's not saying just do it, be a champion. They're saying just get moving. Okay. It is the most brilliant piece of marketing in the history of marketing, pretty much. I mean, there again, the beautiful part is because of Michael Jordan, that brand is so infused with success. But the fact of the matter is, the just do it concept was about walking, running, and just getting going. And I mean, it was an absolutely amazing concept. But again, it's your first and it's the 11th setup that are always the hardest because you talk yourself out of it until you finally do it. And then when you finally do it and you start to get into it, the ones that are successful, it's the 11th. And if you look at any diary of any successful person, okay, and I'm not going to make this political, but even if you ever read The Art of the Comeback by Donald Trump, you'd see when he did a day in the life, he's up and he starts his day at 4 o'clock in the morning. Dwayne The Rock Johnson starts his day at 4 o'clock in the morning. Mark Wahlberg starts his day at 4 o'clock in the morning. A lot of these people, they're willing to do the things that other people aren't willing to do.
Well,
And
I,
it's
I
just,
just I just
it's
want
their
to say one
passion.
thing though, as a night person, because I'm not a
Yeah.
4 o'clock in the morning kind of person. Listen, I got up at 6:30 in the morning yesterday to drive to Long Island to get a custom top built for my DJ booth because I was motivated because I was excited for it. It's the only reason I got up early. You will never ever catch me at the gym at 5 in the morning. You will never catch me up at 4 in the morning. You'll catch me up at 4 in the morning, still awake doing work.
Understood.
You will never catch me up getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning to start.
No,
Just
I
I'm
get
a
it.
different beast like that. I'm a night guy.
I totally get when I'm in work mode, it's hard for me to tear away, but I choose to work from an office. And as a result of that, I like to go home, turn off, turn the light switch off, and I'm home and I decompress and I watch mindless TV and listen to music and just I like to be at home. I can't stand I very rarely give out my cell phone number to clients because I don't want to get a text at 9:30 at night about someone wanting to add foam disco sticks to their party or something ridiculous. And then they get annoyed by the fact that they don't. I check my emails because I'm addicted to it, and but that's on my choice. And sometimes I don't. I'll read it, but I won't answer till the next morning because I don't want people to think that if I respond to them at 12:30 at night, they should expect that because it's a
Yep.
problem. So I may even put it into respond and put it into a draft and then click send at 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning or whenever. But yeah, I'm not that person. It's weird. I can't stand text messaging. I hate it with a passion.
Hey, Brian,
Yeah.
not to put you on the spot, but do you do any digital marketing?
For simple,
Nope, for styles, yeah.
for styles, no, I actually don't. I did for a little while, and so it's funny because when you were saying that before, I'm putting myself into what you were saying. I'm like, man, he's talking about me right now. Because I'm the person that's like, simple in the last 2 years for me is, like I said, taking my life on a whole nother path. After COVID, before COVID, I'm nowhere near the numbers you were talking. Okay. But I was definitely up in the six digits and things like that, high six digits. Had 6 or 7 DJs working for me before COVID. And then as bad as it was when we lost everything in COVID, most of us, well, not you, because you doubled during 2020, which I want to know how you did that. But you know, it was almost like a blessing in disguise because like two of my guys moved to Florida. One of my guys had a kid. One of my guys' kids getting older and is playing sports, and like it just things just happened in those 2 years,
Sure.
a year and a half. So it kind of gave me a reset on the DJing business, which scared me because when I saw the numbers weren't coming in, I was like, oh my God, that's my livelihood.
Right.
But at that exact same time, Simple was taking off. So it kind of refocused me.
Got it. Got it. Got
And I
it.
never really put my focus back on the DJing business to put gasoline on the fire, if that means. It's steady. It does what it needs to do. Could I get more? Absolutely. I just did a wedding show last weekend for the first time in 3 years, just
Right.
because I just wanted to get a little more business. But my main focus now is mostly Simple, where DJing is still there. Don't get me wrong. I love it. I'm still gonna like
Yeah,
I'm
but the bread and butter now is the software.
starting. It's
Yeah.
shifting, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
But
Right.
you're talking where, you know, me personally in a year, I was doing anywhere from 80 to 90 weddings myself,
Right.
personally,
Right.
besides my guys. I'm now down to like 30 or 40 myself.
Yeah.
So
I used to, through the 90s, I was good for 150 parties a year. I mean,
yeah,
I was a
I'd say, no,
machine.
that was just, I'm talking just weddings. That was 80 or 95 weddings. That's not including
Yeah.
these little corporate events that like I was doing 80 or 590 weddings myself a year
Yeah.
with my other guys still keeping busy. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But now it's just like, okay, I'll take my 40. And listen, I got three kids. You know, my kids are 14, 12, and 10. They're all playing sports. Like my priorities have 100%
Totally
shifted,
shifted. Yeah, that makes sense.
you know, but don't get me wrong. I love DJing, still in it full time, but priorities are just shifted.
Sure.
Yeah.
To answer your question about how we grew during COVID, there was there's no luck. It's where hard work and preparation kind of meet, or whatever that whole thing is. I don't
Crossroads.
know. I actually
The
believe in luck
definition
a
of
little
luck.
bit. Yeah, I
Right.
believe a little bit in luck. And I had the good fortune. First of all, I had a good team, right? We're raised by the greatness of those around us. So we had a really good, strong team in place. But the decision that I personally made that literally changed my life, and it was a risk. Like we talk about entrepreneurs who are successful and go far and whatever, it does boil down to a lot of risk at some point. And I think the
Hmm.
riskiest decision that I ever made was during COVID, we looked at the landscape and we realized that a lot of colleagues or a lot of competitors were fighting with clients about not giving deposits back. Venues were doing it, DJ companies were doing it. And not only was it creating a lot of negative and bad PR, but it also was creating a lot of legal expenses for these businesses.
Mhm.
And my hypothesis was, first of all, we don't want the bad PR. That's number one. But number two, if our competitors are taking their money and they're saving it to fight clients, right? Whether it be through legal fees or to know that more deposits aren't coming in, so they have to hoard kind of what they have, they would not have the spending to keep their marketing going.
Yep.
It was a pure gut, just sort of guess. It was a hypothesis. And so the risk that we took was when everybody else or when I thought everybody else would turn their marketing off, we tripled our spend. So, and that's exactly what happened. The hypothesis turned out to be correct because my thing was people are at home. No one believes that this is going to last as long as it may, and that it actually did. And they're going to be sitting at home going, I'm depressed. I want to think about happy times. Let's plan our wedding. And so while we did not do a lot of events in 2020, we booked a ton, right? And I knew, just as we all know the trouble is in getting started, much of what we do is venue based, right? Referrals. It's my bridesmaid is also engaged and now she wants to book you. Once we could, we were sort of the number of our bookings was going up. We weren't doing those events, but by the time that we did in 21 and 22, and then in 22 and 23, the referrals came from that number. That's how everything just went like this and immediately like spiked our growth. So we were able to shorten our time horizon from a 7 or 8 year growth plan to a 2 to 4 year. And that is really how we did it. But it was all on spending really on the digital side of things.
Yeah, I highly believe in digital marketing. But like we're starting to do it for Simple now too, because again, we had to get off the ground. But you know, within like the last 6 to 7 months, 8 months, we've started doing some digital marketing for Simple. Never, I dove into it a little bit early on with Styles Entertainment. But then again, the pandemic hit and just kind of it
Mhm.
shifted everything. So
Yeah. The other thing
Gotcha.
too was during that time, right? Most of our competitors that were getting leads lists or referrals from venues weren't booking either, right? So there were no referrals, there were no new bookings, or if there were, there certainly weren't the same volume that there had been prior.
Right.
So it was the convergence of a lot of factors and things happening all at once, you know.
you know
There's
what?
no question that I think the people that are successful viewed as horrific as COVID was, it was a reset. It did make, and those that got creative and started to think outside the box, I think have definitely risen because of it. And then a lot of other people just took their ball and went home, and that's okay too.
Yeah.
I know a lot of DJs in this area like folded up, like a lot of the big ones. And I was still reaching out to venues during that time saying, "Hey, when things get back, I'm still here. I'm not going away." So I kept those relationships with the venues, which was always good. And then just an off the cuff thing that I ended up doing during COVID. Remember when everyone was driving around with like those drive-by birthdays for people and they were looking out the window and stuff like that? My daughter's birthday was in May, and we ended up doing one for her, and it sparked an idea in my head one night, and I was like, man, I wish I could do this for my clients, right? But like, how messed up is that if I drove by on their house on their wedding day and beat my horn? I was like, congratulations, you're supposed to get married today. Like, it's kind of messed up, right? But it came up, I gave me the idea of what if I did what was called the drive-by first dance. I knew when their wedding date was. It was already in my system. I knew what their first dance was. I knew what their parent did. They already filled everything out in the portal. So I sent out a mass email through my system and said, hey, as long as you pick a location, socially distanced apart, I'll show up this day for a half hour in my van and I'll play your first dance. So at least
That's
on your
cool.
wedding day when you were supposed to get married, you can say I danced my first dance and I won't say who, I will never put anybody's name out there, but this was like the most heart-wrenching thing is where one of those couples ended up getting married a year later. And the mom came up to me at the wedding and gave me literally the biggest hug. Like I felt her just bear hug me. And I was like, she's like, thank you so much for doing that last year for the first dance and everything. I said, Not a problem." She goes, her father passed away within this year. And if you
Ooh.
didn't do that then, she never would have had her father-daughter dance.
Yeah.
Like that gives me goosebumps just to think about it. It was just an off-the-cuff
Sure.
idea, but it ended up getting national news. I was on live with Kelly and Ryan. I was on local news up here in papers. It was just I don't know. You got to think
Yeah.
outside the box, like you said. You got to do it.
Casey,
Yeah,
we got to wrap up.
absolutely.
We're just about out of time, guys. We got to wrap.
All right, guys. So once again, Michael, thank you for coming on. Brian, thank you so much. Looking forward to an amazing Marquee show. And I'll tell you, touch and base, we hit a whole bunch of stuff. We've got wrap it up. Alan Stern, Andrew Brody, David Hanscom, Darrell Jones, Eric Massengale, myself, Luke Renchin, Mark McIntosh, Matt Radicelli, Michael Saulpaugh, Michael Francis, our host DJ, Roberto Villagres, Tom Shabo, and Troy Adams all speaking this year. So if you're serious about growing your business, you do not want to miss Marquee in June. So you can check everything out at marqueeshow.com. Thanks a lot, and we'll see you all next week. Goodbye, everybody.